a change of pace, a change of pace will put the supreme love spirit right up in your face. Tell me if man, he and she's not living in disgrace, living on freebase insanity without a trace.
What I'm saying is, in order to begin a holistic living healing process, it is necessary to recognize the toxic nature that one has consumed. When we're addressing toxic consumption, we're talking about unwholesome mental and physical consumption, as well as those religious, metaphysical, or scientific acts that one considers to be spiritual. Many individuals have become so adversely affected by the nature of toxic attitudes, values, behaviors, and beliefs that reasoning become impaired, and one cannot reason with the fact that one is suffering from an overdose of toxic depletion. Whole life healing requires that one acknowledge the holistic living truth about supreme love and the essence of life. The holistic living truth is that man, he and she emerged out of the black wholeness that first birthed the sun and its radiant energy within the solar system that anoints the divine union of earth, wind, rain, and sun. The first fact is that solar energy is the supreme energy source of the planet Earth. The second fact is that man, he and she, emerged upon this glorious earth as children of the sun, which simply means that man, he and she emerged as melanin-rich, plant-consuming beings millions of years ago as our most sacred ancestors. Although many artifacts, ruins, and findings continue to be uncovered to validate these supreme facts, our natural and innate state of being as children of the sun exists encoded within the DNA of each and every one of us, regardless of whether the theories of modern science validate our whole life existence or not. Our focus is reconnecting those thin threads of whole life reasonings within the solar consciousness of higher peace. Very simply speaking, man, he and she emerged within the tropical rainforest environments of the planet as a solarized consumer of the fruits of the trees of life. Our planetary source of food begins with the sun and extends to the first food producers, the raw and living fruits, vegetables, seeds, and nuts, the fruits of the tree of life, as a sun-infused expression of whole life energy. The opposition nature invaded the consciousness of isolated populations among the children of the sun, who had migrated away from the centerlands of the earth. Unfortunately, there were children of the sun who became lost and astray during times of earth-shifting climate changes that blanketed the polar regions of the planet in a deep freeze of snow and ice. The severe changes and environmental conditions blighted the food supply. The entrapped population suffered mental, physical, and spiritual deficiency, which manifested mutation and degeneration. Entrapment and the white blight caused depletion of life energy, and that depletion resulted in mental, physical, and spiritual traits of paleness. For those who are unclear here, the initial phases of mutation and degeneration did indeed occur among those melanin-rich populations who became physically entrapped in a harsh, barren, and life-threatening environment of snow and ice. Yes, isolated populations among the children of the sun mutated and degenerated from being melanin-rich consumers of the fruits of the tree of life into being cold-blooded, hunting and herding predatorial scavengers who survived as nomadic warring tribes and clans with a focus on self rather than divine social, economic, family, community order. Let us keep in mind that we're talking about this 12,594-year Banu cycle. There have indeed been many, many Banu cycles before this. The entire family of man, he and she, has suffered a tragic and devastating decline into a lower and lesser state of being as a result of these pale nomadic warring tribes and clans who spread their hunting and herding way of life through the thrill of the kill, blood spill, and the religious crusades of their monotheistic male war god deities. The solarized populations have been reduced to an even lower, lesser state of being than the original carriers of the paleness plague because they have integrated, assimilated, and adopted a toxic mindset that opposes their natural and innate state of being as children of the sun. Everywhere there is sexual violation, violence, war, and crime. and the consumption patterns of the hunting and herding way of life. Know for a fact the pale mental mindset has contaminated and corrupted the children of the sun on a massive scale through many Benu cycles, many migrations, and many cycles of mutation and degeneration. This is where we are at, during the solar meltdown of a cold and freezing experience. Polar consciousness versus solar consciousness. The culture of sexual violation, violence, war, and crime versus the culture of higher peace. The deaf culture versus the sacred garden culture from which we come. The pale mental mindset versus divine spirit conscious thought, reasoning, and action. The individualistic self and its asserted will versus divine social, economic, family, community order. Supremacy is claimed by the victor within the nature of opposition, where victory is determined by those who have the swiftest ability to kill, maim, torture, enslave, and destroy. The nature of opposition perpetuates a mindset where the domination and control of life-sustaining energy establishes supremacy, be it the control of the food and water supply, control of land and renewable and non-renewable resources, control of finance and economic wealth, or the control of military stockpiles, arms, and other weapons of mass destruction. Supremacy is about domination and control. Therefore, it matters not to the warlord, overlord, and landlords of the deaf culture that their so-called benefits are gained at the expense of the environment, mass populations of man, he and she, other living things, or even the earth itself. In fact, within this self-centered mindset, every ounce of life energy will be drained to the last drop to feed the asserted will of those dominating tribal lineages who have survived and thrived by perpetuating the pale mental mindset of polar consciousness. Due to the massive degree of polarizing contamination, the solarized populations are so lost and astray in their color-coded versions of the pale mental mindset that they cannot see the severe mutation and degeneration that is reducing them to the exact projection of inferiority as defined by white supremacy. In fact, the severe stages and phases of mutation and degeneration among the solarized population are happening right before their very eyes. Yes, those ancestral populations who would otherwise have the greatest capacity to guide, protect, and nurture divine spirit conscious resurrection are quickly being reduced to an even lower and lesser state of mental paleness. What then would happen when the victims have grown tired of being victimized and the warlords have grown exceedingly overt in their war games, whereto the victor goes the spoils? What must become clear is that the opposition nature of polar consciousness formulated into a white supremacy mindset, and that the opposition nature of that mindset would work to create its ultimate opponent as a carbon copy. Out of this blatant insanity has come a new world order, where mass populations now glorify and uphold the white supremacy mindset of a polarized consciousness that continue to perpetuate sexual violation, violence, war, and crime. Whereas this mindset was initially restricted to specific tribes and clans and the lineages thereof, this mindset has now spread like a plague, where it might pop up at any time, in any place, among anyone of any tribal lineage or any clan who has adopted the nature of opposition that would formulate into the white supremacy mindset, Ku Klux or not. The need to detox and purge the nature of opposition and its polarizing consciousness is critical and can only be activated with enough humility to neutralize the self and shatter the power base of deceit which perpetuates the white supremacy mindset. What we are talking about here is resurrecting the sacred ancestral spirit presence of the divine children of the sun and the sacred garden culture from which we come, regardless of one being blonde or bald or naughty dread, regardless of the color of one's skin.
Are you ready?